Hey guys, welcome to KANDID podcast with me, Lady T. Right, this is a podcast where I dive into so many different topics and issues related to relationships, life, politics, pop culture, and a whole lot more. Now, usually when I introduce my guests, it's pretty quick and in a few sentences, but just so you know the type of caliber I'm about to engage with, here's a rundown, okay, of some of his achievements. And I say some because I'm pretty sure there's others that haven't been listed. So first of all, he's a stage 4 cancer survivor. That is huge, okay. He's a seasoned author with not one, not two, not three, not four, but 12. Yes, 12 best-selling books. I don't know how he finds the time to write, social life, but hey, it's all good. He's also an international speaker. He's a college professor. Wow. Founder of Vision Summit and the Relationship Academy. He's the president of the National Entrepreneurs Association of Michigan. Wow. He got money, that means. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's also the recipient of the President Barack Obama Volunteer Service Award and Lifetime Achievement Award from the White House. He's also recognized as one of the top 35 millennial influencers in America. That's a whole of America. Is listed in the top 100 leaders in Who's Who in Black Detroit, named in Michigan's top 40 under 40, and he's the winner of Author of the Year by Kingdom Image Awards. So, Dr. Eddie Connor, is there anything I've missed out on this? Because, that's a whole list.
Listen, I'm just trying to be where the money resides. So, since you mentioned it,
I love it.
I think this is an absolute honor to be with you connect with you in the UK, and I know there's a lot going on these days out there.
Yes, but there is a lot going on. I feel like there's a transatlantic crossover of issues that are going on at the moment. But
absolutely,
it's all good. So so I have to say, for me, this is really cool to have you on this podcast because I've been following you for years, and I was thinking to myself earlier today, I was like, I've actually seen your glow up or your growth stage.
Wow.
I think your first or second book to now your 12th book, and I'm just like, wow, you have really stuck to this. You've gone through it, and I knew one day I would eventually speak to you because I was like, oh, I need to interview this guy. It sounds really good. He's cool. He's American. Yeah. And then just never found the time. But now I feel like, yeah, this is the right time.
Right
Plus,
time.
I guess I've got a few accolades to my name, so I think that might have kind of drawn you in a little bit. It's like, yeah, sure.
Well, absolutely. Lady T, I think it stands for more than Tolu, if I'm saying it right. I think
Yes.
the T is truth and transparency. So it's
you know what? I've never heard anybody say like that, but the fact that you just said that, thank you very much. I love that. Truth
absolutely.
and transparency, which is great.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to have you. And I mean, let's quickly, before we really talk about you and all the things that you do and some of the questions that I have for you. 2020 was a crazy year for everybody. There's not one human being on planet Earth that was not affected by this pandemic, who've lost someone or who had the virus. Crazy. So, and also in America, there was so much going on as well. So for you, as a man, as a black man living in America and going through this pandemic, how did it affect you, really affect you? And how did you just manage to sail through and transition through it?
That's a very incredible question, because I think as I think about 2020, and I wrote a book, 2020 Vision: How to See Beyond What You See and Transform Your Reality. That came out on January 20th, 2020, not knowing that we would be in a pandemic.
Wow.
that commenced in March 11th. And you think about in America, 9/11 to 3/11. And matter of fact, it really encapsulated just the whole world. When I think about, we are living through a chapter especially in America here, that we thought we'd only read in history books. We've already
Yeah.
experienced, by 2020, already experienced the Spanish flu of 1918 that ravaged the world. We've already experienced the Great Depression of 1929. We've already experienced the social unrest of 1968, encapsulated all in a year. And to think about the racial unrest as well, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. I think it, and then of course, thinking about 500 plus thousand individuals who have lost their life to COVID-19, 50 million plus Americans, not even counting the people all over the world who are unemployed, financial insecurity and food insecurity as well. I think it brought us to a place of trying to now look at how we have to forsake the familiar. Normal is not coming back. Normal is not behind us. Normal is ahead of us.
Right.
And we're in a new place now. And I think as we think about it, the most dangerous place that you can be in life is not when you're walking on water, it's when you're staying in the boat and literally having to forsake what you thought was. You know, we've gone from brick and mortar to click and order. We've gone from footprints to fingertips now. We've gone from conferences to Zoom gatherings. It is a different place to where our world is in a different space and place. And I think now it brings us to a seminal question. If COVID-19 taught us anything, it's can you touch somebody without touching somebody? Can you be there without being there? Can you literally touch somebody's heart without using your hands? When I can't give you a hug, when I can't you necessarily be in a place, can I still be socially connected even though we're socially distant?
Right, exactly.
And I think being able to be creative in a cave, in a chasm, not panicking but pivoting, not panicking but prospering, not panicking in the pandemic, but being able to be proactive and discover what your purpose is.
Wow. I felt like I just went into like a mini a mini championing session. Like I was like, wait, I wasn't expecting that. Sophie, that's about him. I was like, wow. No, so absolutely great points there because what was it you said from something to pivoting like that I found that quite inspiring. That was like pretty dope. But yeah, I mean it's been hella crazy for everybody, and you managed to write like another book as well, which we will talk about again. You've done some amazing stuff. So let's talk about you growing up. Now, I was reading your bio, so most people think that you're, straight up American, but really, you're actually Jamaican.
No. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
yeah man, no problem. I got to work on my patois. Maybe if I have enough jerk chicken and ackee and saltfish and callaloo that makes you say hallelujah. If I have enough dumpling, then I'll get it back.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up in Jamaica, Kingston, man.
Kingston, Jamaica,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how was that transition? Like, what made you come over from like Jamaica then to settle in America? Because I'm still trying to like get over the fact that you're actually Jamaican. You're not really American, but like it's weird. Wow. It's crazy. So when did that happen from Kingston, Jamaica? And do you remember anything about living in Kingston, Jamaica as well?
Oh, plenty. Listen, I'm a son of the city of Detroit. So like we say, from the 313 to Motown, it's my hometown.
Love it.
What up, though?
What up? What up?
So we say that there. But my parents, prior to their divorce, were missionaries to the island. My father's from the islands.
Wow.
My mother's American. American Black woman, but they went over to the islands, went over to Kingston, Jamaica when I was a kid. So literally from about 4 to 7 years of age, my brother and I lived there. We're just absorbing the culture, and I had a Jamaican accent. I just picked it up very quickly. I was playing, we say soccer here in the States, but it's football, right? And so we were doing ministry, feeding the homeless, and bringing the gospel to a lot of people there as a kid. And my heart went out to people, especially even as a kid. And I think I became much of a people person when I see people's feet of their shoes, but they're so blessed to where even if they're hungry, they're able to grab a mango off the tree, right? And you just see how much blessed you are living in the States versus a third world country like Jamaica. And so those are some of my best times, going to school there, I broke my leg in Jamaica playing football.
Mm.
Um, got tripped up by a kid, and was my mama told me, "Don't you dare play in your uniform." I'm wearing a uniform, going to a Christian school there, and me being hard headed as it is, but I think that really became the formidable aspect and foundation of my education.
Mm.
The British education, which I've always been enamored by, our brothers and sisters in the UK, and then also in Jamaica. Just the clarity, the elocution of speech.
Oh yes, like this. Are you talking about like this? Is what you're
I'm
talking about?
absolutely talking about that.
Okay, okay, sir. Yes.
Lady T, you pronounce your T's.
I have to
So,
pronounce my T's. If I don't, my mother will have something to say about that.
absolutely. And so, listen, when I came back over to the States, they wanted to double promote me. My mom said, "We'll keep you, with your peers, but I got teased for my Jamaican accent. I got teased for,
Wow.
speaking the king's or the queen's English, so to speak. But that really advanced me,
Hmm.
even at such a young age, and those are some of the greatest memories I've had in
Wow,
my
that's
life.
amazing. I'm still trying to picture you having a patois accent since like that's crazy. Like
Yeah,
that
they
is
teased me out of it here in the States. They
they
teased me
tease
out
you.
of it.
But how did that feel? I mean, like teasing you out of your like your dialect, like that makes you who you are, and then teasing you out. Like, how did that make you feel as a kid? And like, what did your mum say to that? Growing up in
Yeah,
America.
I mean, my mom tried to encourage me, but when you're a kid, you want to fit in. I used to even play violin back in the day, from about 7 to the age of 13, and I was one of the youngest in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And they're like, "Nah, bro, a black boy playing violin, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. That ain't cool."
Are you serious? What?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Wait, can I just say, is that public knowledge? Did people know that you play the violin, or was that something like
Very, very few people do.
right?
Very few people. So
I,
I'm giving you insider information right now.
I feel very, I don't know, honored to know that type of information. That is fantastic. I absolutely love that.
Yeah,
No,
man.
but that's brilliant. So now that
Yeah.
you're living in America, you're in a new land, as they say, the land of
Coming to America.
ah, listen, let's not talk about that yet, because
Since I am Eddie's.
oh yeah, that's so true. I love it. Wow.
Coming to America in reverse. Huh?
Did you feel like that though? Did you feel like it was like a coming to America moment type thing?
And now that I think about it, I just had an epiphany. So it is.
So you're gonna go back and think like, yo, that was like I felt like I was in my own coming to America
I
movie.
was.
That
Of all
is
the times I talked about Jamaica, and all the interviews I've done, I've never had that experience until tonight. You just gave me an epiphany. Only
uh,
on the Lady T show.
only
Only.
listen. This is where it all happens. Things come out that you never thought possible, and it's just like how. But no,
Oh my
I feel honored
goodness.
about that. That's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So you're now in Coming to America, your own your own show.
Yeah.
You're now in the
Yeah.
US of A, and then something really something interesting. Well, not interesting, quite huge happened to you, and I think that was what drew me to your story in the
Mm.
beginning, because and you might not remember this, you probably won't, but if you do go back and check the messages, you'll check this. At the time, there was at a point, my best friend, so she had just been diagnosed with cancer, and
Mm.
it was, in fact, when she told me, I was shocked, and I thought she had quite a long time to at least fight it. But as the days and weeks went on, it just grew shorter and shorter. And I remember messaging you because I was just like, go. When we finish, go to your
Wow.
Facebook message and see. So I remember messaging you at the time because I've never dealt with someone who is living with cancer, like never. So it was the first
Mm.
time for me. And I remember your story and I was like, okay, let me reach out to you because you went through it. What's the best way to be there for your best friend who's suffering and who's like trying to fight, but you can see her slipping away? Like how does
Mm.
one deal with that? And that for me was just like, wow, you've gone through it. You must know, you must have something to say. What can I do, and all that kind of stuff. So I remember that. Check your messages. You'll see
Oh,
it.
wow.
You'll see it. So
Wow.
when did this happen? Like, how, like, having cancer, stage 4 cancer, like, when did that start developing? When did you find out, and like, how did things progress from there?
Yeah, it was a very tough situation. Every second in America, 2 to 3 people are diagnosed. One in every 1,000 teenagers uh, gets a report of being afflicted by cancer, diagnosis. And so I was just a regular kid. I was 15 years of age at this time, and it's playing basketball and was getting ready to. I was doing running cross country, just getting fit for playing basketball in high
Mm.
school. I mean, I was just a regular kid. My favorite 2 classes in school were gym and lunch. I love to chase the girls in gym and then sit down and eat with them at lunch. And so, just a regular kid with a high top
Right,
fade,
right. Oh wow, high
rocking a
top.
pair of Jordans. Yeah,
Is there pictures of that? Are there pictures of that? Does your mom have pictures
there
of this?
there are a few pictures of that. Those have never been released.
You wait. You wait.
But based on the quarantine, now I'm back to the high top fade,
Yeah,
so to
we like
speak.
the fade. We like the fade.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was just having these chest pains and not really knowing what's going on. Oftentimes, as boys and men, especially black boys and black men, we're seen as pain as weakness leaving the body. Vulnerability and masculinity cannot coexist in the same space.
Mm.
Oftentimes, vulnerability is seen as femininity. And I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to talk about it. And my mother stopped me in the hallway. She said, "You don't seem like your normal self. Are you having any pain? What's going on?" And I was lethargic in class and just not being me.
Mm.
And I'm over my friend's house watching a football game, can't breathe by halftime. His mother takes me to the hospital. My mother meets me there. They do a CT scan of the chest. The doctors thought it was a punctured lung. Take me to another hospital, find out there's a mass growing in my chest. They took me to surgery immediately. I just could not breathe. I mean, I was literally, every third breath trying to catch my breath.
Wow.
Um, and they cut me open, saw my cells in my body growing so fast they could see them growing with the naked eye around my heart, my trachea, and I use my voice for a living. It was growing around my larynx, my voice box, and felt great coming out of surgery. Doctor says, "Don't be so quick to go back to school yet." And I was in the hospital during Christmas vacation. School had commenced again, and he says, "You have what we call non-Hodgkin's lymphoma." I'm like, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. My first language is Ebonics. I'm still trying to learn English. What you talking about? He says you have not one, not two, not three, but four. I'm like, I'm checking my pockets to find $4. He says stage 4 cancer. I'm
Whoa.
like, how is this happening to me? I'm 15. I'm just starting my life now, fighting for my life. I'm
Yeah.
thinking you can't get cancer till you 60, 70, 80 years of age,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, what is going on here? He says, don't ask why. I'm like, how could you say that to me after a diagnosis? Wanted to go oops upside his head. After that, I felt it was a very insensitive question that you
That's not a nice
posed
thing
to
to
me
say.
at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the question that I asked for 2 years, chemo and radiation, lost all my hair, my self-confidence, my self-esteem. My own biological father never even visited me one day in the hospital. Not just the chemo and the radiation and getting needles driven into your veins or getting a spinal tap in your back, which is just if you move any inkling, you could possibly be paralyzed.
Jeez.
Um, People I thought were praying for me were literally praying on me, sitting on the sideline, expecting my demise. And beyond the physical pain, it was the depression. But I'm telling you, without a praying mom, without her telling me you got to go to Psalm 118:17, which says, "You shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord." Speaking the word over my life and speaking healing when I was sick and having to dig within and find that faith and that determination to say, a knockdown is not a knockout unless you stay down.
Mm.
I'm going to keep fighting again. And
Wow.
I found literally the first 3 letters in cancer spells can for a reason. You can overcome, you can survive.
Yeah.
That's the story.
There was something you said about your dad not even asking. Did he know? And even if he did know, how did that make you feel, him not even wanting to check up on you. Like, I mean, this is the
Yeah,
person who was part of the making of you and not giving, not giving a damn about what's happening to you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he knew. He never came up to the hospital, and so I've always been somewhat of a tough guy mentally, and
Mm,
so I just decided to say, I just use the negative steam to power myself and turn this nightmare into a dream. And I just decided to fight. And the thing is, coming out of cancer, I still had some bitterness about the situation, about
mm,
the diagnosis, much less my dad not being there. And I began just writing my story. And as I was writing, I was healing. I had to literally forgive people who never gave me an apology or gave me a delayed apology. I
wow.
had to forgive to live. And, sometimes you can come out of a situation, you can be delivered, but not healed.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now being able to be in a place where I'm both is a blessing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, anybody's you don't really hear much people surviving stage
Mm.
4 cancer. And like you said, there's nothing like a praying mother, because your mom must have been like beside herself. And like your brother, how was your brother through this as well? Because your brother is a bit of a character as well. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. He's a real character. But how was your
Yeah.
brother? And is he younger than you as well?
Yeah, he's younger than me by a year, but I mean, he wound up dealing with cancer as well, not in the extreme place of where I was,
Yeah.
but he wound up having a bout as well with it. Um, Thankfully, beat it very, very quickly. But to have, two sons now dealing with that, and the stress of a divorce,
Mm,
the stress of a mother grappling to deal with two sons and dealing with your own masculinity and identity and trying to find your way and navigate it through life, it becomes taxing. And the doctors, I remember when I was diagnosed, said, well, did you smoke at all? I'm like, no, I didn't smoke. I'm like, I'm 15. They like, what's that mean? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, if you knew how tough my mama raised me, nah, I ain't doing
you
that.
did
They like,
exactly.
did you live in a toxic environment? No. And now we're realizing they didn't even mention that at that time, but now we're realizing the effects of stress on the body, psychosomatic, which is a cancer causing
Mm, mm,
aspect. And so, having to, yes, I got the healing physically, but now having to do the healing emotionally,
mm,
mentally, spiritually, cognitively
mm.
was another layer to this whole aspect.
And how long did that take for your healing in terms of, from all the chemotherapy, and then you had your mental healing, emotional, like how many years was that? Because obviously you're young, you're a teenager at this point, but was it a very long process, or was it sort of like you decided to focus and spend the next 3 or 4 or 5 years making sure that you're right within? So how long did that take?
Yeah, I mean, from cancer to 15 to, as they said, remission, as I say, healing,
Mm.
coming out of it about 18. That was a 3 years physically, but I would say it really from about 15 to 23
Mm.
when you're thinking about the whole aspect of the emotional, the mental,
Mm.
the psychological, spiritual, even. Me writing the book, my first book, Purposefully Prepared to Persevere, Finding the Can in Cancer,
Mm.
that really became more of a seminal moment to say, all right, I can now move on and help people overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always ask this question because I feel like we all have that moment. Were you angry with God because you had cancer? And especially at a young age as well, because you're young and you just want to
Mhm.
live life. You want to do so much. So were you angry at God? Like, why did you do this to me? Like, I'm too young.
That's a great question. I've never been asked that question. And I think I was, if not even anger and disappointment. It was a why hast thou forsaken me moment.
Mm.
you know, it is cancer was a crucifixion, so to speak.
Wow.
And I feel like there's two parts of my life, the pre-cancer stage and the post stage. It is a place to saying, I'm just now beginning my life. Why me? Because a lot of times we go through things and we really want to be serious about it. we could think about 5 or 10 folk who said, you know what, you could have chose them ones. You could have chose that hating person over there,
Right, right,
the,
right. Yes.
the one who's acting a fool, toe up from the floor up every
Hmm.
every time of the week.
Keep talking
You
then.
could have substituted them for me.
Mm-hmm.
Why me?
Mm-hmm.
And so once I began to understand that God is not necessarily turned off by a why, in why comes revelation.
Mm.
You know, in why comes the whole aspect that other people, if you look around it, and when I was in that cancer ward, they died when you stop seeing those specific children who were my age or younger. They
Wow.
stopped coming in, but you're sustained. You know, there's not maybe all the time deliverance as we wanted, as quick as we wanted, but
Mm.
there is sustenance.
Mm.
I sustained you in the midst of this to where you don't feel the ramifications of it. I know you're in the fiery furnace, but you still don't smell the smoke and you're coming through it because your test of testimony, your misery is ministry, your message, your stumbling blocks and stepping stone. God to use your setback as set up for your greatest comeback. He used your tragedy as strategy to move to the next level. If we were playing the movie The Color Purple, you know, I tell you, just like Sophia, all my life I had to fight, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so understanding that you can still soldier through this and that you can fight on and then live to tell the story that God got the glory from it and you can overcome too.
This is it, and I think that's the key thing. Like, it really is about God getting the glory in
Yeah.
the things that we go through, like the journey that we go through, because we can't say it was some man or some woman that helped us, but really, when you look at it deep down, it's for Him to get the glory for bringing us through the whatever issues or stress that we were going through at that particular point in life. So, moving on from surviving cancer stage 4, I mean, incredible, absolutely incredible, and we thank God that you're here to tell the story. So now that you're healed, you're moving on with life. So what was it like in your 20s? What did you begin to do, like live? Like, did you like what kind of things did you start to do in your 20s?
Yeah, you know, I really grew up as a kind of a reserved, shy kid. I was always a sports aficionado, and uh, I wanted to be in many cases an architect, and now I found myself post cancer having to be an architect for my future.
The irony.
The irony.
I love it.
Wanted to be an athlete, but didn't grow as tall as Michael Jordan. But I had to leap over some obstacles on my own.
Woo.
So
Oh gosh.
um, I went to college, and I was told I'd never go to college because the circle back to what my guidance counselor said. She knew my favorite two class in school were gym and lunch, and to a
Oh
certain
yeah, that.
degree, to a certain degree, my grades were indicative of that. So she said, you know, you're not going to college. Don't even think about community college. Pick up a trade. That might be the boat that'll float for you.
Oh
So
wow.
I said, I'm going to use, I said, here we go, another obstacle. I said, let me push through this. And I wound up getting a donation, $5,000 donation um, for college
Mm-hmm.
and being admitted on probation. And somebody, I still don't know this day, some donor gave me $5,000 that they knew in my story. And I was admitted on probation to Eastern Michigan University, majored in education, did a bachelor's in history and minor in physical education. And
Mm.
I said, you know what, I think I'm going to be a teacher. And my parents were both teachers, so I knew I'd get the summers off.
That's so true. Yes, and it's long summers too, right? Like this, it's a win-win. It's win-win.
You're right. The pay ain't so bad at all. So, and then I just enjoyed mentoring young people.
Yeah.
And I felt it was an opportunity for me to speak to my 13, 14, 15-year-old self because I taught high school for 12 years. Some people say I was 12 years a slave,
Oh,
but teaching the kids and really helping them to find identity,
right.
developing their gifts and their calling.
Mm-hmm.
And but guess what? Like I said, I'm Jamaican, so you know we got 5, 6, 7 jobs. I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler.
For real.
So so what I would do during the time when everybody else was going to happy hour, I was trying to make my hours happy. I went home. They were trying to have a happy hour. I was trying to have a happy life. I would go home and begin to write my book. I'd go during the summertime. I'd still teach summer school, and then I'd come home and still write my books. And I'd come back to school, and my colleagues like, "I heard you wrote another book."
You see,
Like,
you see what I'm saying? When I said 12 books, I'm
right.
like, first of all, where did you find time to write these books? Secondly, do you even have a social life? Like, well, again, you did say you're kind of reserved and shy person, so
Right,
you
right.
would use that
I,
to your
br- I
advantage.
I broke out of that shell once I went to college because I knew I had to fend for myself now. Like my mom said, "Hey, if you don't get a scholarship or find somebody to stay in school,
Mm.
you're gonna have to come back home."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, "No, I went to college to leave the house,
I'm not
so
coming back. What?
I'm not coming back to the basement. It's not gonna happen, and then pay rent too. It's not gonna happen." So I wound up finding a place to stay there. But I live in a cold weather environment. I live in a cold weather city. It's cold most of the year in Detroit. Is nothing else to do but to work.
Just like
And so
London.
yeah, right. Just like London,
Yeah.
get you some tea and the
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
tea and a nut.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Wow. Okay.
Listen to the Big Ben clock.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. But I mean, it's I'm not new to a quarantine. I'm true to a quarantine. And
Hmm.
so finding still a place to be socially connected and say, hey, all right, I got to block this time off because if I don't do the work, the work is not going to work unless I work it.
Right.
Faith without
Exactly.
works won't work. And so I've just been a person who's always said, all right, I'm just determined. I'm just going to make it happen. As stressful as sometimes writing can be and as painstaking as it is,
Hmm.
I just pushed
Just
it on the
power through
pages
it.
and made it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot in that brain of yours that just wants to continuously just come out. And every time I'm gonna write a book on this. Okay, right. I feel like
Yeah.
before you retire, you're gonna be like at least 50 to 60 books in, and your
Wow.
library in your house is just gonna be like, yeah, these are my books. I don't need not that you don't need other books, but like these are my books. So with that said, who are
Yeah.
your favorite writers? Like who writers do you like? Or that you kind
hmm
of thought, oh, I like this style. I liked how they write, and you just like them as authors.
Without a doubt, that's a great question. James Allen's book, As a Man Thinketh, it was a very short
Mm.
read, about 50 pages, but it was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Likening the mind to a garden. You're either going to plant weeds or weeds of worry or seeds of strength. And
Mm-hmm.
so I began to uh, really imbibe that book and use that as a place of mental fortitude and just having a mindset to just power through what it is that I may go through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember reading Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's book. I may not get there with you. In as a sophomore in college, about the life of Dr. King in the last few years of him
Mm.
is an interesting. One of my heroes, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, wound up writing the foreword for one of my books years later.
Wow.
Sitting down, having lunch with
Amazing.
him, and yeah, a number of times. And I mean, Dr. Cornell West, Race Matters, Dr. Miles Monroe, who writes about purpose
Mm.
profusely,
Mm-hmm.
T.D. Jakes. You can think about his book, Maximize the Moment. He's got
Mm-hmm.
another book, He Motions. Many of those types of writers as well. Then I mean, Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, even Dr. King is one of my favorite writers.
Love it.
His last book that he wrote, he actually wrote his last book, interesting enough, in Jamaica. Isn't that interesting? His last book that he wrote,
Wow.
um, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? He and his wife took a vacation. He and Coretta took a vacation to Jamaica, and that's where he wrote his last book.
Look at that. And it's like it's meant to
And
be.
that's
It's great.
meant
I
meant to
love
be,
that. It's
meant to be.
definitely meant to be,
Yeah.
which is all good. So where did your passion for relationships then come in? Because obviously you've done all this stuff, surviving, you're getting through, educated. And I know obviously your mum's very, very proud. Wait, in fact, this is a question for you, and you have to answer honestly. Are you a mummy's boy?
Unabashedly so. Yeah,
Has that been a problem?
unabashedly.
Has that been a problem in the past?
Um, I would say in the past it probably was a problem.
Okay.
Um, in regards to trying to make my own decisions.
Right. Yes.
You
That.
know,
Yes.
trying to make my own decisions. I'm my own man,
Mhm.
you know, now and have been for quite some time. But I would say being sheltered and growing up the way that I did, you know, going to church all the time, nothing wrong with that still.
That's
But you
good.
know, being under her wing in church all
Yeah.
the time, 5 times a week sometimes it
Oh
was, or
God.
you know, she's making sure your homework is done, and now you're having trepidation about what am I supposed to do in life. Just being able to, I think college was good for me to be able to spread my wings,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and having to learn how to live on your own.
Mhm.
You know, but I'm grateful because you know she didn't raise a lazy boy. She didn't raise lazy sons with me and my brother. But I mean, I had to learn how to cook on my own. I had to learn how to do my own laundry. I had to learn how to iron my own clothes. Got to learn how to look like something once you leave the house. So once I came to college, it wasn't like I'm just, you know, Alice in Wonderland, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, wondering what's going on.
You were very.
But
It
I,
prepared you. It was just like this boy. You need
yeah,
to learn something. So you're gonna learn before you go out. So she essentially
absolutely,
prepared you to go out into the world for college,
yeah,
for your college years, right? Okay.
yeah.
So back to like the whole relationships. Where does your passion for relationships, really delve into relationships, like come into play? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of like your major thing, and I think it's great. And I have
Mm.
questions
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know uh yeah, before we get into the questions, but anyway, it's like how when did that passion for relationships come through? Because when I see it, I'm like, okay, making some sense here.
Mm.
So yeah, where did that come through?
Yeah, I think it came through for me. I wrote a book. My first book ever on relationships was called Heal Your Heart.
Hmm.
It was talking about healing from broken relationships. And I felt as if I could either be amicable or forgive my father and repair that relationship to a certain degree, then I could help anybody else
Wow.
overcome any type of fissure or fracture in a relationship. And I felt as if I could overcome that, move from brokenness to wholeness,
Mm.
and find strength through struggle. Because you know some things you may never get over. You just
Mm.
have to manage, and you have to just not be on some type of emotional roller coaster, but learn how to get off the ride and push full steam ahead
Mm-hmm.
and move into a place of healing. So I felt that was one of the main factors um, to me writing about relationships and
Mm-hmm.
just looking at the gravity, especially the male female dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the reading books, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, or
That's such a cool book.
trying to try.
That's such a cool book.
I'm telling you, Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman,
Mm.
discovering what your 5 love languages are, or finding what love languages are out of the 5. Just kind of just being enamored by that, and then growing up in a divorced household.
Mm.
I think that really kind of shaped my view to a certain degree on relationships
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how it is that people communicate. Like I was the kid whenever my parents would have people over, their friends were all older, and I'm chilling with their sons and their daughters. I left them and I'd put my ear up to the door and try to go hear what the older folks were talking about.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I was always somewhat of an old soul as a young
Yeah. Yeah.
kid. You know, the kids they want to play spin the bottle. I'm trying to hear what are the older people talking about. You know what I'm saying? And then I get caught like, what you doing listening? I was tying my shoe. Get
So
up out of
you,
here, boy.
you were kind of like an old soul in a young body.
Yeah,
You grew more closer to like the older type of. Okay, so
yeah.
with your parents' divorce, did that really give you any? worries or issues about committing into a relationship, because quite a number of times when people come from divorced homes, it really affects them when it comes to getting into a relationship, because it's either like they treat their partner not right, or they get into it and then it's a sabotage thing, or they just do the same cycle as their parents did. So did that worry you, getting into a meaningful relationship as
Yeah. We, like
as a
they say,
man, especially as a man as well?
I think it does shape to a certain degree. It is though that we live looking like our parents, but we die looking like our decisions.
Mm,
So
mm,
so after a while, playing the blame game, it literally stops you from winning at life.
mm-hmm,
And I think one of the main things is that, I had to get to a place of saying, all right, just because my father might have been physically present at certain times, but mentally, spiritually, socially absent,
mm,
doesn't mean that I'll be a bad dad
mm,
whenever, I decide to get married and have children. So I think it moves from that place of looking at, sometimes you got to reparent yourself.
mm. True.
Sometimes sometimes you have to say, all right, that example will not necessarily be the lot for my life,
Mm,
because I don't have to ascribe to the whole aspect of, just because they were divorced doesn't mean that I would be.
mm,
Just moves from the place of, okay, this is an example that I don't have to partake in.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes one good parent is better than two bad ones.
That's very true.
You
Honestly,
know?
you said it. You
Ugh.
said it. And some people think that just having one parent is a bad thing, but really, when you look at it,
Yeah,
do you really
yeah.
want to have two toxic people in a household? Because that's not gonna. It's not gonna do anybody any better, and especially in the long term, it can have some severe effects on how, how men see things, or how women see things, or how they see each other, how they're supposed to behave, how they're supposed to act. So yeah, it's better to have one than definitely two. So for you, do you feel the pressure? Because let's be honest,
Mm,
women have this pressure to get married. Like, there is this unobscene amount of pressure to get married. Like, I'm African. Like, I'm like Nigerian. And
oh wow.
if you know anything, if you're listening and and if you're of African heritage, the pressures. There's so much pressure for children to get married, especially the girls. Especially if you're the eldest girl
Mm,
and you're not married and your younger ones are married, oh my goodness me, it's hella crazy. So there's pressure from women to get married. Do you feel there's pressure for you as a man to get married as well? And why isn't there pressure on men to get
mm,
married? Or is there?
Good question. Not as exacerbated as it is on our sisters, on women like yourself. It is a societal pressure is serious for women, because of course, you got the biological clock. You got to have children by a certain amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, now you're seen as an anomaly, or they want to stigmatize you. Well, what's wrong with you, right? I mean, the question I get the most these days is, when am I going to get married? And they ask me as if I'm unemployed looking for a job. When in many
Oops.
cases, right, of course, I mean, Holly Berry gets excoriated, George Clooney gets celebrated.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for that contrast. Because let's
Yeah,
really, really, why? It's
it's,
frustrating.
it's a, it's a societal double standard. Societal double standard is what it
Mm,
is. It is the whole aspect of, It's like back in school, a girl who dates more than one or two athletes as a cheerleader, she called everything but a child of God.
This is it. But if a guy does
The
it,
man, the boy
oh, wait,
who
wait.
dates the whole cheerleading team, oh, you the man, 100 grand. So
And
that still seeps into society.
it's happening right now. Classic example. Not that I want to talk about it, but I'm going to use an example. So you have Michael B. Jordan and Laurie Harvey. Laurie Harvey has
Mm.
had so many, people that she's dated, but she gets ripped for it. But for another guy, it's like hush hush. But I'm just, and I can't. I have to admit, I had a bit of a problem with it. But then I thought, hold on a minute, wait. If this was the other way around, if it was a guy, it would be like, oh, he's fine, he's living his life, he's doing this, da 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 da. But I'm like, but she's living her life, right? She's doing her thing, she's enjoying herself. So just because she's a woman, it's like it's not good. It doesn't look good for her. It's like women shouldn't be doing that. But it's just like, well, listen, I've always said it. What a man can do, a woman can do probably 10 times better. Just a lot more slicker and and may get ridiculed for it, but they just do it just a little bit better. In my
It's true.
opinion.
It's true.
In my opinion.
It's true. We, to a certain degree, yes. We want to equal the playing field,
Right.
but in certain aspects of relationships, it never will be.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about our women are seemingly born with this level of inherent value that men have to work to attain.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, because you're seen as being born with a certain level of inherent value, however you treat it as such. Women are Our sons are loved, women are raised. We
Mm-hmm.
love our sons and we raise our daughters. Keep your skirt down,
Mm-hmm.
continue to be prim, continue to be proper, continue to be prissy, right? Because you have this level of value that you don't want your image to be tarnished, much less yourself tarnished,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all for the whole build up.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, of the wedding day? The prom becomes the prelude. You're playing with Ken and Barbie, right? You playing, what do you play house? You got the oven easy bake,
Easy bake.
right? And and in many cases, what are we doing as guys? We playing cops and robbers. We playing video games. We playing all these games. We tally the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And so what is it? She's so oftentimes this is what it is that we're doing now. We're preparing women for unprepared men.
You know what? I feel like the spirit is one right about now because no. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I've had this huge issue with just society in general and even in the church where a lot of rhetoric is directed at women to prepare. You must do this, you must look like this, you must position yourself, you must have this, you must do this, da, 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 da. But I'm sitting there like, hold on a minute, I thought there was two people in, like, when it comes to relationship, there's two, right? So why aren't, so us women, and I think this is one of the reasons why there are a lot of single women in the church, because women are raised to be this great, upstanding, integritous, women and everything like that. But then you get the fellas. It's like, okay, so what? As the patois would say, wagwan, brother.
What?
Like, I mean, like, hello, like, what? This, it really frustrates me. So why is it that men aren't being prepared? And I wanted to ask you as well, like, I know some of the stuff that you do are directed at women, but why aren't you speaking to the fellas as well? Because they need to be spoken to.
Yeah, and much of my rhetoric, especially in my books, has changed that way. I've got a book called Wife, Wisely Inspired, Faithfully Empowered. That is not so much a book written to women. It's written for how brothers can prepare to
Mm,
find a wife, and is also for what women should look for when they're being found. Then
mm,
I've got my other one, Relationship Rules, which just came out just recently. How to win at love, leadership, and leveraging your purpose. To where we talk about the same onus that we placed on women should also be placed on men. I specifically share in my books is that We always beat women over the head with Proverbs 31. Who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is far above rubies, right? But we failed to talk about Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, which says, who can find a faithful man? Last time I checked, and I'm more English than math, but 20 comes before 31, right? So if who can find, not only for the sisters, and actually Proverbs 31 is a chapter that is written from a mother to her son.
Oh, oh. Well,
Her
there's a.
son is King Lemuel. Is not written for a woman to a woman. Is written for a mother to her son for what he should look for in a woman. So she's essentially asking him, who can find a virtuous woman? Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, who can find a faithful man? Who can find means it's slim pickings. It's little supply, but it's great demand. So my price goes up, my appraisal rate goes up. The more valuable that I am, the more virtuous or the more faithful that I am. See, the fact of the matter is, brothers want sisters to be virtuous, and women want men to be faithful. Isn't that interesting? So oftentimes we want sisters to be librarians in the
Oh my God.
sanctuary, while
Like,
we as brothers want to run through the streets.
oh, I could just listen to you all day. Like, please keep preaching. Please, no. Please keep saying, and just talk to the brothers as well, please. Like, please, just carry on. I'm just listening right now.
It's just that whole aspect that I've got to be. When you talk about who can find a faithful man, question becomes: am I faithful in my relationship with God? Am I faithful in my career? Am I faithful in my calling? Am I faithful in being on my purpose? Am I faithful for those of us who may be fathers or husbands, leaders and scholars in the community? What is the area that I'm faithful in? I got to find that area and be faithful and I have that stick to itiveness, because if I can't be faithful in those areas,
Hmm.
no way that you're going to be able to be faithful in a relationship.
Hmm. Hmm.
No way.
Look at that. Got to be faithful in one. So,
If you want her to be virtuous, you got to be faithful. The same purity label that you place on her has got to be indicative in us too.
oof. Thank you so much, because it's been super frustrating, because it sometimes worries me, like, okay, so I'm here preparing, getting ready, but then I'm just like, then who's talking to these
Mm-hmm.
brothers, especially in the church, because I feel like guys in the church these days are moving, as we Brits like to say, moving kind of mad, moving very mad, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not, like you said, they're not faithful. They're not, the men that we like to have integrity. They don't have the integrity that you would think that they should have, especially, and godly standards as well. And it's frustrating because, like, we're trying to be good, we're doing good as best as we can, but then the guys are not. Nobody's saying anything to the men. And why don't men go to conferences, or why don't they want to hear things to get them? You're laughing because someone's asked you this before. I feel like this is a question that's come up before. So why won't men do these things to prepare themselves? Do they just feel, oh, I don't need preparation, I'm good, I'll just do whatever?
Mhm. Tyler Perry said women control the marketplace and men buy what women like.
Hmm.
So one of the things is that uh, how we have been raised and how we have been reared, how we have been socialized as men is that you never ask for help. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's kind of like the man who is driving with his wife and she knows all the directions, but he wants to figure it out, because a lot of times us seeking help is weakness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Us seeking help is now moving into a place of, I got to be transparent. And now transparency moves to a place of vulnerability. I'm going to a conference because I want answers.
Mm-hmm.
But as a man, we're taught to always have the answers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so a lot of times, even you think about the way that we're socialized, women verbalize, men internalize. If a woman got an issue going on, she's gonna get on the phone and talk to her girlfriend. She's gonna seek it out, whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, us as men, we stay locked in. And the problem is when you're so locked in, sometimes you don't know how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as we begin to change the trajectory of our vision and our mindset to see a conference, a workshop, an empowerment tool, a book as not something as you're deficit minded, but now you're able to build upon the strengths that you already have. We're so taught not to minimize our weaknesses, but in many cases, what we try to minimize so much really becomes maximized in our lives. Which I think is why, sisters are so ardent about self-improvement, about getting in the, nail done, hair done, everything did. Are you fancy, huh? Building your business and your brand, and you securing your bag. You're keeping your standards higher than your heels. You being a queen and wearing your crown.
Yes.
Right. It is a place of self-empowerment.
Yeah.
And now sometimes you get into relationships where you've improved so much, they haven't necessarily taken the steps that you've taken. And whoever you intimidate is who you eventually eliminate.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
And then it brings me to the question also, in your past relationships, have you ever been, because of obviously what you do, you talk about relationships, whether it be romantic or with, like platonic in terms of like workplace and leverage and all of that. Have you ever been scrutinized in past relationships on the things that you have preached about? Because I always wonder those, men who talk about relationships and give out these tips and this and that, and then what's it like in their relationships? Like, do you practice what you preach? Have you ever been sort of like pulled up on like, wait, but you talk about this, but you're not but you're not like doing that. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I think one of the main things, especially us as men, we can struggle with is communication. And because with that whole aspect, a lot of times communication is so different. On average, a woman uses about 20,000 words. On average, a man uses about 10,000. 10,000 she used at her place of employment. 5,000 he uses at his place of employment. The evening begins, or they're going out to dinner. She's still got another 10,000. He's got another 5,000 left. Say, for instance, they use their 5,000. She's still got 5,000 in the bank. He's out of words. Right? He communicates more so from facts. She communicates from feelings. And so I think getting into a place of learning the beauty, the benevolence, but also sometimes how people need to be loved. A lot of times we come into relationships thinking that we know how somebody needs to be loved versus discovering how they need to be loved. And that there boils down to communication. Right. Communication is not waiting to talk. Listening is not waiting to talk. And a lot of times, some of those things that I have struggled with, especially just being more transparent, more communication oriented versus trying to see it just from a linear perspective, all logical, and not see it from a place of just sometimes it's just feeling, it's just emotional.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a woman can go through 30 different emotions in a day. You ask a woman how her day was going, she'll tell you for the time she put her feet in her furry slippers at 4:59 a.m. to where she almost got cut off in traffic, to where she had to do her makeup, and then she had an issue with the coworker, and then she had to straighten that out. She had to correct them in Z formation, 3 snaps of the neck roll. Right, like but you ask a man.
I feel like this is coming from experience. I feel like you. This is something that you've experienced.
Absolutely. And plus, I've written about 5 books on relationships. You ask a man how his day was, it was good.
That's it. It was literally good. That's it. And it's like, that's it. Like,
that's what it really was. Nothing else happened.
Like, anything else? Can you like elaborate a little bit, please? Like, and nothing else happened. My goodness.
Yes. Yeah. So I had to unlearn and relearn certain things, and especially, my father wasn't necessarily big. He had an incredible vocabulary, but when it came to just expression, He was not as verbose one on
As
one.
most, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I get that.
yeah.
All right. So now there's something that I saw online that you did, and I could not believe it. So since we're talking about relationships, okay,
Mm.
I saw you went on probably one of my favorite people's show. Yeah, you know what I'm about to talk about. You know what I'm about to talk about. And I was like, what? Really? Okay. So basically, Dr. Eddie went on to the Steve Harvey show. All
He
right.
didn't introduce me to Lori though. So.
Wait.
and
Were you
and
hurt?
that's
Were you hurt
and
that
that's my creed.
were you hurt that he didn't introduce you to Laurie?
Honestly, I didn't even know she was on the radar at that time. I just did.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. So
Well, I guess she
you
was born grown up. I don't know. It's just.
listen, she might have been way too young for you anyway. But but so you actually went on to the Steve Harvey show, which I was so shocked about. I could not believe it. I was like, rah, okay. So you were obviously you were wanting to settle down and find somebody. What was that? First of all, what was that experience like doing that show?
It was really cool. I got a chance to be behind the scenes and really see Steve be a master of what he does.
Yeah.
He's really is a king of comedy, and it's all unscripted. How he was warming up the crowd when I was in the green room.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing. But I also got to see that a lot of um, TV is smoke and mirrors too.
Welcome to
It
our
is.
world.
That's why they call it TV programs. It is a program for
This is
sure.
programmed to do something.
It, it is for sure. And to be invited on for the segment United Dates of America as the most eligible bachelor at that time in Michigan. That was pretty cool. And actually, the girl who they brought me on to meet after our segment, she says to me, she said, "I know who you are." I said, "You know me?" I said, "This is our first time meeting."
How
She
can
said,
I
"Yeah,
not
you
know?
wrote the book Heal Your Heart. This is the book Heal Your Heart this time." She said, "You had the billboard up." So she's a sister from Detroit. And I said, "Wow." So she had already had my book and read it. And so, she was really giddy to meet me. We wound up going out. We wound up going out. The Steve Harvey show gave us a gift card. It's like I can't take myself out. I got to take the sister out. So I had to report back, and it was cool. It was just a cool conversation, and that's just basically where it was for real.
It was like it was just there. It was like, okay. So obviously, so I want to ask you this question, and you have to be truthful about it. Because
That's,
if you're
I,
not,
I,
because if
T
you're not,
stands for truthful.
exactly. So here's the question, and even I'm kind of, am I really wearing? No, I'm not scared to ask it. So, since you appeared on the Steve Harvey show for that segment, are you still the most eligible bachelor in Detroit, Michigan?
I am not.
I tried for you, ladies.
uh,
I tried.
uh,
There you go. So that
uh,
you've got your answer now. You have your answer now. There you go. So but because I'm pretty sure like
uh,
so many people will try, and your DMs must be crazy busy because people be asking. Aren't It's okay. You can be truthful because it happens, right? Your DMs are pretty lit. You get lots of
the,
solicitation, right?
more than I would like to go into. Um, more than I would like to go into. I mean, uh, based upon the way I filed my taxes,
Wow.
hilarious. But more than anything, I get a lot of people just wanting advice, in the
Hmm.
DMs.
Hmm.
How do I deal with this guy, or what do I say to this lady? You get a lot of that, and
So wait, you get guys asking you questions as well?
sometimes you get the brothers asking questions too, like, "Hey, bro, I read your book, especially like my new book. I didn't
Oh,
realize I was going to get this much support from men, especially writing about relationships. But a lot of brothers have been purchasing the book, asking questions,
okay.
and I think one of the main things is that the pandemic has really put uh, our connections as men under the microscope
Mm-hmm.
because according to the New York Times, they say there's our relationships with us as men connecting with each other has suffered. There's no more sporting events where we would get
Mm,
together. You social distance in the barber shop. It's not the way it used to be.
mm.
For guys who would just go out and hang with their fellas or hang with their brothers is not happening anymore. And a lot of our relationships were just built on sports, money, talking about women.
Wow.
And so now it puts it under the microscope. You know what? Maybe I do need to be in a good loving relationship.
You do? Hello? What do you mean? It's like you do. You do. No, it's like hello. There are so many people
Yeah,
waiting out there. So like, guys, come on,
yeah,
like, do something because yeah, I think you are right. This pandemic has really shown a lot, like how people really do communicate, how they really interact, and once that's taken away from you, it's like, what else do you have? And I think it should force people to like find ways to be able to interact and communicate with people. I mean, like, so many divorces, unexpected divorces have happened, and it just goes to show, like, wait, so you were married, but what were you doing? Like, how were you actually relating in your marriage? So now that you're seeing each other like 24/7, it's like you all of a sudden don't know how to, or you get irritated, or you can't do this. Like, I'm just super shocked, like how the pandemic has really affected relationships, especially
mm,
marriages and stuff like that. But I think, like you said, this should teach people really different ways to be able to like interact and be able to communicate and wanting that interaction with someone as well. Like there's like a need. There's a need for more interaction now. So I do hope some guys pay attention and step up a little bit, because hello, you know.
Absolutely. It's time to step up, and I think you know my book as I write about it, winning at love, leadership, leveraging your purpose.
Mm.
All of those have to work in concert with one another, really, to have to build healthy relationships, but also purposeful partnerships.
Yeah. Oh, ugh. That purposeful partnerships. That is is
Yeah,
is a big thing, because
yeah,
I think people don't think, like, well, those who know, like, when you get into a relationship, it's great, but that relationship needs to have a purpose. Like, what are your plans? What do you want to achieve together? Not really individually, but together as a couple, because you kind of need to be able to win at life together, doing things together and being purposeful
yeah,
and creating and building things. But some guys don't want
yeah.
that. They just want to hit and run. In fact, what is a word for the guys who just want to hit it and run? And I'm talking about those in the church. No, I'm just being real, because this is my experience. This is my lived experience at the moment, because a lot of guys just want to hit it and run and in the church, and I'm just like, what Bible are you reading from? Like,
Mm,
what would you say to them? Like, because it's that is a pandemic in itself. It's an epidemic.
yeah,
It's an
yeah.
epidemic.
That's true. I mean, beyond Netflix and chill, I think we got to get to a place where we network and build.
Mm.
And you can't, even in Proverbs 31, it says, don't give your strength. His mother's talking to his son, King Lemuel. If you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
a king, you can't give your strength to all these women
Mm-hmm.
because you're out of purpose. And I think one of the main ingredients for a man has to be the place of where is he in regard to his purpose,
Mm.
not chasing skirts, chasing all these other things, but really, am I discovering what is that purpose that God has created me to fulfill? And a lot of times that is happening because brothers avoid a purpose, right?
Mm.
They think their validation, their value comes in. how many conquests that they have
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
versus how many businesses can you build, how many books can you write, how many people can you empower, how many young brothers can you motivate. You know, we've been so inundated with the whole aspect of size matters, but it's really the size of your heart. What is the level of the strength that I have where I can love somebody through where it is that I have experienced? Because lust has an expiration date,
Right.
and all of that is going to disintegrate any day. That's why I write in my book, relationship rules. One of the rules, I have 14 rules in there, but one of the things that I write about, I say love is not enough.
Please say that
That's one of
again.
the rules.
Please tell them
Love
again.
is not enough.
Tell them.
Because oftentimes love is defined as legs open very easily. If you really want to go there.
Okay. I've never seen it like that or heard it like that before. That's new to me. Wow. Okay. Continue. Continue.
Absolutely. Love is the thread, but purpose is the glue.
Mm,
See, so many times people get into relationships saying, well, I just want somebody to love me. But in many cases, they should be able to complement the love that you already have internally,
mm.
right? I'm needy. I'm not needy. I'm needed.
Hmm.
I bring something to the table that is going to be beneficial, because so many times we come into a relationship as a customer versus a waiter or waitress.
Mm-hmm.
As a customer, you come in selfish. As a waiter or waitress, you're selfless. A relationship's about what can I give? And in many cases, you now make yourself, you inconvenience yourself for somebody else.
Mm.
So love is a thread, purpose is a glue. And so many times we've been gorilla glued to the wrong folks.
You said gorilla glue.
We've been
I did not
attached,
see that.
and we need a social distance from those. And that's one beautiful thing about the pandemic, as ugly as it has been.
Mm.
So many times we were asymptomatic. People were asymptomatic to what they did to us, but we were always sick. They hurt
Wow.
us, but they never had any ramifications from it.
Hmm.
Now, because I'm social distance from you, I'm able to really see who you are. Listen, love is not, as I said before, is not the foundational element. It's got to be purpose. Exes love each other. Baby mamas love each other. Divorced folks love each other, but they can't be together
Mm.
because they weren't in purpose together.
Hmm.
You can't expect a purpose partner if you have not first partnered with your purpose.
Jeez.
And that's where we are. That's why
Damn.
relationships are in a pandemic all on its own itself.
Whew. Listen, I know we can talk about this like for so much more. There is so much more we can talk about. In fact, let's quickly just point out a couple of
Yeah.
rules in your book. Tell us a couple of rules in your book that can help towards
Yes.
relationships.
Yes, as I said before, don't love is not enough, but there's another rule. Don't follow your heart.
Hmm?
We-
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Don't follow your heart.
yeah,
I don't trust. I don't want to follow my head. I'd rather. Okay, please explain. I'm
yeah.
listening.
Don't follow your heart is some of the worst advice that you could possibly get. People tell you to follow your heart as if it's somebody on social media. Um, Jeremiah says in scripture, the heart is desperately wicked and deceitful.
That's
Above all, who can know it? So
mm,
essentially, your heart will take you where your mind can't keep you.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Your heart will put you in a situation where you mentally can't really stay there. And so many times we
Okay.
follow our heart and it derails us towards our destiny, because really it puts us on a detour to destruction through a distraction. You don't want to follow your heart. You want to follow the Spirit of God, Him leading you. Because once He leads you, this is what He gives you: increased level of discernment. To say, all right, I can see a snake in a suit. I
Mm,
can see a devil in a blue dress. I'm not judging you based on your height. I'm judging you based on your character. I'm not
mm,
judging you based on your curves. I'm really judging you based on the character and the level of who it is that you are. Because
mm.
oftentimes we come to the table with, yes, you're fine, but what else? How can a woman expect a man not to have an appetite if all she brings to the table is meat? breast, legs, hips, and thighs that only Popeyes. Now he treats you like a fast food restaurant,
Oh
in and
my
out.
God.
How can a man not expect a woman to only want her to pay, only want him to pay her bills if all he does is say, this is where the money resides and show me nothing but dollar bills?
Hmm.
So she came to the table with her body. He came to the table with his money. And at the end of the day, once the relationship is skewed, she says, oh, he only wanted me for my body. She only wanted me for my money. But that's all you brought to the table. Can you bring your character? Can you bring your dreams? Can you bring your goals? Can you bring your ideas? Can you bring your relationship with God? Can you bring the essence and the aura of your personality and who it is that you are as an individual to the table? And that be enough. And if it's not enough, guess what? It's better to wait long than to marry wrong.
Hmm.
Waiting on God is not a waste of time. If you rush it, you just might ruin it, because once you know what you bring to the table, you don't mind eating alone. I refuse to be treated as a napkin when I know what I bring to the table.
Wow. Okay. I don't even know how to respond to that other than that. Yo, that was crazy. That was on point. Like I'm trying to recover from that. Sorry. I
I'm
really am trying to
sorry.
recover.
I had something to get off my chest.
I'm trying to recover from that. Like, oh my goodness me. Okay. Because that love thing when they said follow your heart, but then when you then explain, because I was
Yeah.
about to ask you, so then what do you follow when you said the Holy Spirit? Very right, discernment. And I guess you have to really be in tune with your relationship with God to be able to. I think one of the two things that I always pray to God for, wisdom and discernment. Those two for me, like, I don't know how, I think every single day I pray for those two things because they're so powerful and it can get you, it will gives you a little bit of foresight and also makes you aware and spirit just awake so that you don't accept just anything. And yeah, like, oh yeah, don't follow your heart. Okay, one more. I need to get the book. I need to get this. This is so good. Okay, can you give us one more? Because we're gonna be wrapping up
Uh,
soon. So
I'll say another one. And y'all got to get the book. There's 14 rules in here, and the rules are not even in the beginning. Most people, when they write a book, they write it based on the rules. The rules are all at the end.
oh my
I had
days.
so much to say before the rules. Um, one is this is another rule is that boundaries are a blessing.
Please preach. You have the floor. Tell us, please.
One thing I think you got to realize is this, that sometimes your healing attracts people who are hurting.
Mm,
That's one of the main things. Sometimes your healing attracts people like a moth to a flame.
mm,
And some people are not only attracted to you because they're looking for love, some people attracted you because they're looking for help. And so I think now you find yourself, if you don't set healthy boundaries for yourself, you will find yourself in relationships and situationships that really now sink the boat on your future, because relationships in many cases like boarding an airplane, too much baggage is going to cost you. And
mm.
so establishing healthy boundaries and then communicating those healthy boundaries should not be off-putting to somebody. In many cases, it should really be a place of welcoming somebody. You ought to be really cautious of people who don't have healthy boundaries,
Right.
right? Because you love yourself, because you know your worth, because you're creating a safe space and place for yourself.
Mm,
I'm now creating healthy boundaries for myself. This is the time that I need for myself,
mm.
right? I can't be over there with you after a certain amount of hours. Um, I love talking to you, but I got to minimize my time because I've got a purpose to fulfill and I got work to do too,
Right.
right? I won't put up with toxicity, this
Mm-hmm.
level of stress. I can't deal with that for me to build a healthy relationship.
Mm,
So I
mm,
think once you really understand that healthy boundaries help you to win, you don't focus on what you lose. I think if 2020 and 2021 taught us anything thus far, it is taking an L is healthy.
Mm.
See, the fact of the matter is, if you're going to take an L at all this year, it ought to be for love. It ought to be for leadership. It ought to be for leveraging your purpose. It ought to be for the fact that you got the Lord with you. It
Hmm.
ought to be for the fact that you don't lean onto your own understanding because you'll fall. It ought to be for the fact that you discovered lessons. It never was a loss. It was a lesson.
Hmm.
And I leveled up in life,
Hmm.
right? I think that's where it boils down to. And so the whole aspect of don't follow your heart, love is not enough, but also creating healthy boundaries. And then being able to communicate that and then ask the other person, what are
Hmm.
your boundaries? Right? Because if you don't have any boundaries, a city without walls is easily destroyed.
Absolutely.
So boundaries aren't necessarily, even in that aspect, walls, boundaries are bridges
Hmm.
to be able to create healthy relationships and purposeful partnerships. You got to get the book. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Audible. It's available as an ebook, hard copies you see here, but also as an audio book.
Listen, I'm going to be getting my copy ASAP because I need to see those rules. It's brilliant. And my God, like this has been so insightful. And some absolutely phenomenal, like, and sometimes I think we make things so complicated, but then it just needs someone just to break it down and put it in the simplest of forms. And it's just like, oh, oh, I see. And and I guess as humans, we've complicated things to the point of no repair. But thank God there are others like you who want to make it simpler and just easy for us to understand. So thank you.
Without a doubt,
So
simplicity
thank you
all
for
the
that.
way.
Honestly. So thank you so much for imparting those, tips and the wisdom as well and the understanding of so much. And obviously talking about your journey to where you are now. It's amazing. Like I said, like just seeing your growth to now, it's just phenomenal.
Wow.
Like there's not many people that I follow and see that transformation and that transition. So like I'm a little bit gassed, as they say. As they say in the UK, I'm a little bit gassed. I'm like, yes, I've got to see this and enjoy here. So I'm very grateful for you to just to talk and to share and to impart as well, because one of the reasons why I do this is for people to really understand someone's journey and see where they're at, and also to leave with something as well. And I think you've just done that and beyond. So thank you so much for
Oh,
that.
thank you. The
Super, super.
BBC has nothing on Lady T. So
You better tell somebody. You better tell him. Oh my gosh. Honestly.
locally and globally, it's a blessing to be able to share with you and how you use your voice. As your the first letter, your name speaks to transparency and truth.
I
So
love it. Honestly, I'm gonna so tag that. I'm tagging it. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Is so good, so good. Okay, so how
yeah,
can
thank you.
people, keep in touch with you? Like, okay, say where your books are available, your social media handles, website, all that kind of stuff. Like, how can people find you?
Yes, I like to say the revolution not only be televised, it'll be digitized. So all you have to do is just go to my website, dreddieacademy.com. You can register for our relationship academy, which we focus on those three areas: love, leadership, leveraging your purpose. It's ongoing now. It's an incredible, transparent, safe space and place where we talk about all things relationships, purpose, leadership, all of those things under that umbrella. And then you can get the book, dreddieacademy.com/book, where you can get relationship rules, or simply go to Amazon
Mm-hmm.
to get it as an ebook, audiobook, physical copy. I'm on social media at Eddie Connor Jr. Please put some respect on my name. EDDIE CONNOR Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's a number one hitter.
Wait, did no one ever put respect on your name? Like, what? What is this?
Listen, they have chopped my name up so bad with the typos and the spelling. They do ER S. Somebody called me O'Connor before. So
How? I don't understand. Like, what were they reading? Why don't people read?
that's I don't know. I mean, it's bad if you send somebody a bio and then they still chop the name up.
Listen, before I tend to make sure that if I'm going to be pronouncing anybody's name, I'm like, can you just tell me how to say it? Because I don't want to butcher it. I don't want to, mess it up. And so
Yeah, yeah. Whether it's, and even not only just spelling, pronunciation. I had somebody call me. I was on doing a Zoom and doing a conference one time. They said, we're grateful for Dr. Cooper today.
Sorry.
I said this ain't TGIF, and you're not hanging with Mr. Cooper.
You must have thought, sorry, are you Mr. Cooper? Is that you? Like, what?
I said, just disregard my last name. I'm just simply Dr. Eddie. Simple as that.
Oh my gosh, that is so brilliant. Love it. But honestly, Dr. Eddie, it's just been phenomenal once again. Thank you so much. But yeah, so guys, make sure you just check out his website, eddieconnorjr.com.
No.
Oh, I got it wrong.
We're going to stretch our hands and pray for you today.
Thank you. I was doing
DrEddieAcademy.com.
There you go. I was doing so well.
You're doing so well. See, Lady T stand for tripping now.
No. We're not about to do that. No. We're good. No.
Touch her, please, Lord. Lady T need another touch.
I do. Just a little bit of a deliverance. Honestly. But no, seriously, thank you so much once again. It's been an absolute pleasure.